Oh no. Uh-oh. Well, I think I have to. Just a moment, class. Let me just figure this out. All right. All right. I think I'm back now. So, as I was saying, you use carbon-14 dating. So you have this moment you want to figure it out. So inside our bodies, we have both carbon-12 and carbon-14, and it's present in all living organisms. Now, when we die, right, or a plant dies, or any organic material, any living organism dies, the body starts to decay. And what happens is that the molecules that contain carbon, right? So in animals and in plants, all the molecules inside of us that contain carbon, we stop taking in those carbon molecules, those carbon containing molecules. And therefore, the carbon-12 is constantly being replaced. However, when we die, this is not replaced. The carbon-14 is not replaced. And therefore, the ratio of carbon-14 to carbon-12 will decrease. So they can compare the ratio of somebody living to the ratio of somebody dead. And then they can see that if they see that the carbon-14 went down by a half, then that means that the specimen was 5,700 years old. If it went down by a quarter, you can see that the specimen is 11,400 years old. So let me repeat. When we are alive, we have both carbon-14 and carbon-12 in a specific ratio in our bodies. As the carbon-14 that is present in our body decays, it is constantly being replaced, right? Because we take it in when we eat food and when we do other things, do other activities. All of that is constantly being replaced in our bodies. So as the carbon-14 go down, it goes back up when we eat food. Is that clear? When we die, we stop eating food, we stop living. Therefore, we stop taking in these carbon-containing compounds. That means when the carbon-14 goes down, it keeps going down and down and down and down and down. And because the organism is no longer living, it cannot go back up. So what they do is they measure by how much did it go down. It takes 5,700 years for it to go down by half the amount. So if you check the mummy and you see, oh, the carbon-14 went down by half the amount, it means that it was 5,700 years old. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what carbon-14 dating is all about. Now, it is not particularly accurate because you have other things to take into consideration. For example, suppose something tampered with the specimen that might cause the carbon-14 to go down more rapidly than usual. That might account for the discrepancy in the ratio. So it is not, if something tampered with the specimen, then the number of years that was calculated might be inaccurate. However, this is what scientists use, and they use it to determine the age of some fossils, like this skull that you see there, right? So they count up how much carbon-14 is left, and they can see what the age of the specimen is, because carbon-14 is radioactive. That means it decays constantly. All right, the next one is radiotherapy. And radiotherapy or radiation is how they use, what they use to cure or treat or control cancer. Now, when you have cancer, you have a rapid growth of a lot of cells, and they try to stop the cells from growing and damaging these cells by radiation. So they can do external radiation, which is what you see here, and they just direct a beam of gamma radiation to the cancer, or they have internal radiation where they can inject a radioactive isotope into the target area, and or they can, put it in a capsule or something to the target area and cause the cancer to die. Now, they have different types of isotopes that they use to treat different types of cancers. For example, iodine-131 is an isotope they use to treat thyroid cancer. Iridium-192, palladium-103, iodine-125, they use those to treat breast and prostate cancer, as well as some brain tumors. So they use different radioactive isotopes to treat different cancers. But basically it's the same thing. They just take a radioactive isotope, and because it's giving off the radiation already, they just direct it at the person's body. Isn't that crazy? All right. The next way that radioactive isotopes are used are for tracers. Now, tracers are used as a diagnostic tool. And what that means is that they want to determine what is wrong in your body. So they will inject the tracer into your bloodstream. And as the tracer is moving through your blood, it is emitting radiation. And then they will take a special equipment to look at that and see exactly what is happening and the functioning of specific organs. For example, the isotope technetium-99 is used to look at your brain, your heart, your skeleton, your lungs, your liver, your gallbladder, your kidneys. Iodine-131, they use it to look at your thyroid gland. So when you use these tracers, as they emit radiation, it is easy to see what is happening in those parts of your body that they put the radioactive isotope, and you can see it on your scans better. Everybody still with me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, finally, we're gonna look at the last two and then we're finished. We're gonna look at energy radiation. Now, radioactive isotopes, have you ever heard of nuclear power plants? Well, they use radioactive isotopes there, and they use it to generate electricity. Now, how do they do this? Well, when isotopes emit radiation, they also give off a lot of energy. So what happens is the isotope will give off energy as it is decaying, and we call that also nuclear fission, meaning the splitting apart of the nucleus. When the nucleus splits, you get two smaller nuclei and you get a lot of energy, and then you can use this energy to run your power station, to turn on your light, to do everything. Also, atomic bombs use radioactive isotope. And in World War II, the 2 atomic bombs that were released by the USA onto Japan, which was in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those 2 atomic bombs are used with the same principle. They give off a lot of energy as they fire a neutron onto a radioactive isotope and cause it to split. When the atom splits, it's called nuclear fission, and it will make 2 smaller atoms and give off a lot of energy. And this energy is what can destroy and disintegrate and kill millions. Isn't that crazy? So in World War II, they used a uranium fission bomb. And when it exploded, it destroyed the entire Japanese city of Hiroshima. And then a few days later, they released a plutonium bomb. Plutonium, not uranium this time, but a plutonium fission bomb. And that one detonated over Nagasaki 3 days later. And that kind of reaction will just completely decimate everything in sight. Finally, we have the heart pacemaker. Now, the pacemaker is something you put near your heart to regulate the beating of your heart, right? Just gives your heart a little shock. And the reason for this, they're using radioactive isotopes is to power the battery. So the pacemaker battery gives the pacemaker the energy that is used to power it and keep it going. And usually in the past, they used to use chemical batteries, which only last for 10 years. So they would have to keep going and renewing the pacemaker every 10 years. But once they discovered radioactive isotopes, they realized that they can use the isotope to give off a small amount of energy to the pacemaker, and that energy generates an electric current that can power the pacemaker. And because the half-life of the isotope is 87 years, it will take 87 years for that isotope to just go to half. As a result, that pacemaker will outlive the patient, and you will have the pacemaker in for the rest of the patient's life. All right. So radioactive isotopes have several uses. We can use it for carbon-14 dating, can use it for radiotherapy, we can use it as tracers, we can use it in energy generation, heart pacemakers, and they are very, very useful if you know how they work. Mainly for energy, discovering the dates, and to discover diagnostic as a diagnostic tool. All right, so those are the uses of the pacemakers. Now, this activity was given to you in Google Classroom to talk about the different uses of the radioactive isotopes. And so if you have not done it, or you wish to change something, if you saw that you did something wrong, you can go ahead and do that. I have opened it for editing.
Are you going to grade them?
Oh yes, definitely grade. I'm definitely grading them. All right, so if you know that based on our discussion today that you may have some ones that you didn't do correctly, you can go back and redo or correct it before I mark it. All right, do you have any questions from me about what we spoke about today?
No, miss.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some pictures of these notes and post it in your class group so you can have it as a reference. So save it. All right, everybody?
Yes, miss.
All right, take care and have a peaceful and productive day.
You too, miss.
Same to you.